always think, how do rally drivers die in rallies? And then you drive a road like this and you go, oh, now I understand.
Search AutoTrader.
This is the Mercedes-AMG GLC 63 SE Performance. We've traveled all the way to Spain to sample this newcomer because it's ditched the V8 in favor of a 4-cylinder hybrid powertrain. So let's hop on board and see what it's like to drive. So here we are on board the Mercedes-AMG GLC 63 SE Performance. Now, that is quite a mouthful, and I'm quite proud of myself for getting that in one take. And we are on some exceedingly narrow but equally beautiful Spanish B roads, experiencing this hybrid performance SUV. And as I mentioned in the introduction, there is quite a lot of controversy surrounding not only the GLC but also its smaller sibling, the C63. Now, they've ditched their V8 powertrain as seen in the previous generation models in favor of a turbocharged, albeit heavily turbocharged, 2-litre 4-cylinder engine that's assisted by a battery pack and electric motor. Now, the performance figures on paper, at least for this car, I've driven it about 120 kilometers today, the performance figures on paper are impressive, but in reality, I was not really prepared for just how quick this car is. Headline figures, 500 kilowatts and 1,020 newton meters of torque. Now, the car does weigh about 2.3 tons with me on board, so it's not exactly light, but I don't think anything really prepared me for how fast the car actually is. Now, at the moment, I'm in Sport Plus mode. We are on really narrow roads right now. I got to open it up a little bit earlier, but these roads are super narrow and I really don't want to open it up too much right now, but it is instant. It is crazy. And the 4-cylinder engine alone now produces 350 kilowatts and 545 newton meters of torque. Now, obviously, you combine that with the electric motor and then you get the 500 and the 1,020 newton meters. But the petrol engine by itself is pretty potent, but when combined with this electric motor, everything feels pretty seamless and instantaneous. There's also some goodies Mercedes-AMG have fitted, such as an electrically controlled limited slip differential at the rear axle. There's also an adaptive damper setup in the suspension, and no less than 8 driving modes. Those range from all electric to comfort, sport, sport plus, race, individual. There's even a snow mode for the car. Now, it's super configurable, and when the battery, it's a just over 6 kilowatt hour battery, when that's fully charged and it's working in unison with the petrol engine, you have got a lot of performance. 0 to 100 around 3.5 seconds. It is crazy. But I suppose what has surprised me most is how accessible the performance is. Sliding its tail. It is, make no mistake about it, this is noticeably quicker than the V8. This is noticeably quicker than the V8 that it replaces. Does it have as much character as the V8? Never. It's impossible. Just cannot replicate what that V8 provides in terms of a soundtrack. But I'll leave it up to you. Let's pop it in race mode. Let's listen to the car. There's a lot of noise being piped into the cabin. Lots of pops and bangs on the overrun. Man, this thing is outrageously fast. The thing is, you really have to look down at the speedometer to make sure of your speed, because there is quite a lot of power, and you don't really perceive any turbo lag because there is a small electric motor housed within the turbocharger that spools it up before it would traditionally be spooled up in other turbochargers. So it is an electrically assisted turbocharger. That, in combination with the electric motor, means that there's instantaneous power, and we've also got a dual clutch automatic gearbox, and the gear shifts are pretty seamless, so performance is not the problem. problem. What I think people are worried about is having a 4-cylinder, has it lost its character? Well, I don't think it's lost its character. I think it's lost the character it once had, but it has a new one now. Now it has something different. It has almost a surgical precision to it, because everything is so clinical, everything is so nice and balanced, and it's really taut, and it feels surprisingly low and very planted. It's also got an electrically controlled roll bar, anti-roll bar, so it's also disguising its weight a bit, but very clinical in the way that it executes its performance. It's not quite the hooligan that the V8s were, but as a tool, it's faster, more efficient, and it's really fun to drive. I mean, if you want to be a hooligan, I still don't think it has all of the hooligan tools of its V8 predecessors, but this is absolutely mega. We don't have pricing for this car when it comes to South Africa, but whatever the pricing is around the 2 million rand mark, unbelievably quick car for the money. Considering it's a 4-cylinder engine, considering it's the most powerful series production 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine in the world, combined with an electric motor, somehow AMG have made that a bit more characterful. As I said earlier, not quite as characterful as the V8s, but it was never going to be. But I'm surprised at how much fun this car is to drive. It can be a bit serious because of the massive amounts of performance on offer. So when you are tackling a road like this, everything does start to get very real very quickly, and that can feel quite serious. And it's very flat in the way that it corners. Its brakes are very good, and there's not all that much drama. I even have the stability control switched off at the moment, and there wasn't too much drama. You get it to wag its tail a little bit. I'm sure you could do some nice smoky drifts in this if the mood had to strike. But it does feel, because of how much performance it has on offer, it does feel like quite a serious thing at times. So those that are looking for a really sharp performance SUV driving tool, this is definitely going to be on your shopping list. You must definitely go and drive one. Those that want a V8, or they want their car to sound and provide the character of more than a 4-cylinder, i.e. the straight 6 that you can find in a BMW X3 M competition, or even a V8 from the previous car, you're not really going to get your kicks from a sound perspective. It doesn't sound bad by any stretch of the imagination, but AMG have seen what they have to do from an emissions perspective, and they've also seen, I think, the benefits of having a hybrid. This can be plugged in. There are 2 ports. There's obviously a fuel filler cap at the back, which is one of the coolest fuel filler caps I've ever seen, and then you can also charge the tiny battery as well and drive it in an all-electric mode. Speaking of which, let's flick it into that, see if we can do that. So now I'm in all-electric mode, driving here. The speed limit is 90, currently doing about 43, and this is the car in its all-electric mode right now. The other cool thing, drive it in all-electric mode, but also cruising through the passes here in race mode, the car has actually charged its own battery back up to the maximum amount while I've been speaking to camera, and I thought that was quite nice, honestly. And as with most hybrids, if you push past the first pedal click, the internal combustion engine, regardless of the mode that you're in, will kick in to life if you need that additional overtaking power. But now in electric mode, it's super quiet. This is how you can sort of drive it in traffic and when leaving your estate. If you're in South Africa, you don't want to wake up the neighbors. You kind of just pull out in electric mode, then you can fire up the combustion engine when you're away from people who are sleeping in your immediate area. It's quite nice, and I mean, you can feel the car doing a lot under you. There's no getting around that. You can feel there are some very clever systems doing things for you in the background. There's some torque vectoring happening. You it distributing power. You can feel the rear diff working. So it's not only me doing that. But that's quite reassuring. Now I've switched the traction control to Pro, and I can still feel it jabbing in these situations. There was a bit of understeer. There's a little bit of oversteer. So you can prod it into different. There's understeer. There's a bit of understeer on the exit. Oh. There's definitely a lot going on under me right now. But I think the key takeaway right now is, as I'm turning it through this pass, I don't feel like I'm driving something that's super heavy. In these fast sections, it feels really good. Like under braking right now, I could feel it. But genuinely, they've done a good job disguising that way. Now, in terms of the rest of the car, not just its performance, but that's obviously what we're going to focus on here, because there will be a normal national media launch for the car in South Africa, and we'll probably do a road test on the car when it arrives, and then we'll delve into the practicality. So we really wanted to delve into the performance. How does this 4-cylinder serve the person looking at this car who was looking at potentially the previous generation or owns the previous generation, and they think, do I want to switch over to a hybrid with a 4-cylinder from a V8, or should I go for the older model and stick with the V8 while I can? Well, if you're a V8 person, this is not really going to do it for you, because it's not a V8. But if you're just looking for an incredibly effective SUV tool, as a performance SUV that is, this is pretty hard to beat right now. I'd love to see what this car's rivals come up with as an answer to this, but for now, in this particular segment, this feels like the fastest and certainly one of the most engaging products in its segment to drive. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the content. Leave us a comment letting us know what you think of this GLC 63 SE performance from Mercedes-AMG. Until next time, cheers.
Search AutoTrader.